Cuenca?
Yes.
Manage that.
But it's the same meaning. It's Mary.
Thank you very much, Moni. Good panel. Good afternoon, everyone. So for the next little while, it's operators, content and platform competition in Europe. To help us talk about that, Maria Cuenca. Have I got that right?
Yes, right.
Excellent. Okay, who's Entertainment Partnerships Manager with Telefonica. Next to Maria is Matthew Poole, who is Head of Entertainment Products for TalkTalk Group, and Charles Prust, who is CEO of the TMC Content Group. Welcome, everyone. Start quickly with the what do you do all day question. Tell us briefly your role and a little bit about your company, starting with you, Charles.
I'm in adult entertainment, so my job's way the most fun job. No, TMC is Europe's leading provider of adult content and solution to operators. We've been in this business for about over 20 years. It's a complex and evolving market. We provide linear TV channels, we license IP, we provide libraries to operators, and we also run 18 plus apps or specific walled gardens for adult content that run on our proprietary tech stack. And just as an example, one of our better known implementations is Sky Germany, where we operate all of their 16 plus and 18 plus services for their 3.5 million subscribers. And between our linear channels and our catch up and our 18 plus app that runs on their service, their 3.5 million subscribers generated about 40 million engagements last year. So it's very compelling, very, very important content.
Thank you, Charles. Matthew.
Thank you, Julian. Yes, I look after entertainment products at TalkTalk, where I sort of spent my time between the joint venture with BT and the UK PSPs in UView, and working with our commercial and partnerships teams in building content partnerships and tinkering with the technology teams to deliver the best services to customers. TalkTalk is unique in the sense that it is the only value operator who is able to talk to the triple play market in the UK. And that's thanks to a heritage in TV, both through the acquisition of Blinkbox some years ago and being a founding member of VIEVU. And we're looking to continue to disrupt and deliver value propositions in a market where pay TV is still quite strong. But the opportunity for all that content out there gives us an edge to deliver packages that are much more valuable to customers.
Okay, and Maria at Telefonica.
First of all, thank you for inviting me to take part in this panel that I think we are covering very interesting topics. I work in Global Partnerships Entertainment, focused on the B2C segment. And in my case, I'm focused on the OTT and video vertical. But entertainment is a live area, and we are always negotiating with a lot of OTT partners from music, gaming, social entertainment, and so on. And thinking on the commercial bundling and on the product and platform integration.
Okay, well, let's start off our conversation by talking a little bit about content strategy, the production, the acquisition, and distribution. And I'll start with you, Maria. You're predominantly, as I understand it, aggregating rather than producing content right now. Is that correct?
Yeah. Telefonica, I cover 12 countries from our area, from our role. So it means that we have both roles, and as a telco or pay TV operator, depending on the country and depending on the type of product or service we offer to our customers, we can have both. In the case of the Spanish market, we are having an aggregator role, integrating OTTs like Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime Video, and so on, in different ways. Sometimes we are just integrating the app, like the case of Amazon Prime Video, and in other cases like Netflix or Disney Plus, we are aggregating this in a hard bundle. But Movistar Plus, the Spanish pay TV brand in Spain, is a content producer. So we have a long history in terms of producing originals and for linear and for.
So that's
for
your,
VOD.
to be clear, Movistar, that's your brand, is that correct?
That's a Spanish brand, it's not my
Spanish,
brand.
not yours personally, although I'm sure you'd like to
No, because
have a part of
I'm
it.
in the corporation.
Yes,
so
of course.
I'm represent. I work for Telefónica Corporation, not for Movistar.
No, understood. Because there is that separation between
Yes, we have different
different sides of a company and
We have like
different
4 or
brands.
5 brands. So Movistar Plus is the pay TV brand. Movistar is the mobile, the connectivity brand aggregating other services. O2 is the brand that merged here in UK with Virgin Media. The same brand in Germany, Vivo in Brazil, and Movistar in all the Spanish-speaking
And for Movistar, does your Spaniard in the street, do they know that Movistar is owned by Telefónica, or doesn't it matter anyway?
No. It's super established and well-known brand, very recognized. And we have also O2 for the connectivity in Spain. So people know that both brands own to Telefónica.
Okay, that's interesting. Matthew, what about Talk?
So, I would first start by saying that we wouldn't call ourselves a pay TV provider anymore. That's where our history and heritage is. Thanks to what's been happening in our industry, all the content, we've been gradually pulling out of licensing and acquiring or delivering over the top any content by ourselves. And that has enabled us to deliver that value proposition to customers. So it's keeping prices low.
So over what period of time would you say that shift has taken place? I suspect you might have not actually been in post at the company at the time.
No, I only joined in January this year, but it's probably been in the last 3 years, which probably it corresponds to the explosion in content that we've been seeing. So it really enables us to disrupt and deliver packages that are cheaper, which when you consider that the ISP market is stagnating, everyone's doing fibre. To differentiate when everyone's doing fibre, that's not where differentiation is going to happen. So entertainment, that's why entertainment is so important to telcos and ISPs, and our ability to sort of like borrow from the fact that we can partner with great content producers and aggregate and deliver experiences to consumers without making them pay directly to us for it is a great opportunity for us.
Would you say that that's purely a talk decision based on the market conditions that you've described, or is it part of the general telcos just don't do content anymore? We've seen it elsewhere in the UK with BT pulling back, I think is possibly the best way to describe it, because they still have a share in what's now TNT Sports, but they're not as involved as they were 10 years ago, certainly.
I think there's a specific case for sport, which we heard about in the presentation earlier, where you get priced out. Sport is just expensive. So that it's possibly a factor, but...
I guess sport is the flag-waving content genre, isn't it?
Because it is, but then if you come to Talk, you can get Now TV on your bill and get sport for cheaper than you can get Sky in a set-top box with Sky. So you can come to us and get that cheaper and still get Now TV. So I think there's a way forward even with that.
Nicely sold. Charles?
Well, I mean, adult content aggregation and curation is a very specific business, because we have to look at not only at the audience, but also the country, and we have to look at the platform that they're consuming the content on. So with TMC, we're really delivering content for a lean-back experience to a legacy pay TV operator. So we're obviously in the content aggregation business. We don't produce because there's a tremendous amount of content available, and it's our job to make sure that we down-select the right content for the customers, and that's a data-driven process. Okay, because it involves segmentation, it involves looking at what people are consuming, but then most importantly, even before we get there, the safety of the content is paramount. And for us, we must always deliver safe content. And that's something that we obviously don't see on a lot of the other platforms on the internet, et cetera. But so for us, we're really looking at working with a select number of producers, people that we've known for decades. As I've said, we've been in this business a very long time.
Critics would probably say something along the lines of, well, people will watch your content and that will encourage them to go looking for other content elsewhere. What would your response be to that?
Well, Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, obviously one of the elephant in the room when you talk about FAST or AVOD is adult. Okay, and we're talking about billions of engagements daily on AVOD on the tube sites. I mean, the amount of money being spent on adult content, the amount of engagement by the public in general worldwide dwarfs anything, going on with mainstream content. But in our specific case, we're talking about a clientele that is slightly older, that is used to consuming paid content on their television. And that's a client you don't want to lose if you're an operator, because they're probably 50 plus, they're probably middle to upper class. It's how they've always consumed adult content. If it's not there, they will go somewhere else. But they don't want to watch it on their home internet. They're afraid of malware. They're afraid of their credit card being stolen. They're afraid of their children seeing their browser history.
So arguably,
and all of these things don't happen on television. So that consumer feels comfortable within their pay TV operator. And excuse me, it's a different.
I guess arguably, kind of what you're saying is, like any other content genre, they see the pay TV operator as the safe place to get that content from. They won't. They'll give them the best content as best as they can.
They will give them the best content, but the safest content. If they watch something on their television, they know that they feel that it's safe. And that's very, very important to them, and it's why adult content works so well for legacy operators who do it properly.
Okay, let's look a bit more then at the sort of the content, if you like, which is coming in. Matthew, you mentioned the cost of sports rights, which I think in some cases there's attempts in many markets to try and at least cap it, maybe push it down a little bit, but other content isn't cheap either, and one might imagine with the strikes going on in the US market, producers in Canada and Australia are getting very excited at the prospect of getting a little bit more for what actually is quite often good and undiscovered content.
Yeah, I mean, you mean it's the cost of production. I mean, that's
well, the cost of buying it, I guess, ultimately for the operators.
But I think it's possibly in part driven by the war of the sort of top tier SVODs in cost per episode. Essentially, they're competing for the production level, so that's driving up costs. And I think that probably we will see some consolidation across the aggregating big players. Even though we have like many of all the studios have got direct to consumer play now, we will see consolidation there. But where we see consolidation there, it will be an opportunity for niche content providers to come to the fore. So what we're definitely looking to is building more upon niche content providers alongside those big players, where the content should be cheaper. And I think the other sort of aspect of the costing to talk about is the investment in content now is making the cost of production cheaper.
Yeah.
So the level of quality you now get for a certain price is so much more reduced because the people that are operating at scale have to bring down the bottom line. And so that is enabling smaller players to get into the market to produce reasonably good quality content, which is partially why YouTube is doing really well.
Yes.
Because there's so many independent people doing reasonable quality productions.
It's interesting. I try to remember the name of the show I was watching now. I think actually it was an Australian, I can't remember the name, but the point is, looking at lots of shows these days, they're using these sort of cinematic kind of camera shots, centering things right in the center of a screen. It may not be 16:9, it might be 14:9 or something else. And this seems to be, as you say, there seems to be this sort of trickle-down effect into what is being produced, both in terms of cost and the end result for the consumer.
Sure, and I just think that we will, the war to sort of like for production levels will come to an end at some point because it's not sustainable. We heard about opinions on can Netflix business model carry on. They have to diversify. So I think sooner or later that will reach a limit.
I guess we were talking to Paramount yesterday afternoon, and for example, their big show Yellowstone, well, it's finding its way onto Channel 5 in the UK. I think RTE is showing it in Ireland. I'm sure there will be other territories where it's showing right now that I haven't managed to spot yet. And it's that kind of thing of reducing this cost, but at the same time giving the first run to the streaming service, which gives that premium feel.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, this is a sort of problem with where we are right now. To stand out, you have to have exclusive content, and the exclusive content has to be stand out.
Yes.
Cost. But we'll wonder what others.
It's tricky. What do you think,
I would say
Maria?
that, for example, the most recent example was HBO Max feeding content into Netflix, like Westworld. So I think the content fragmentation will continue growing, but at the same time, it will bring a new content consolidation market.
Do you think we'll see, it's quite interesting actually, because you have something like Discovery Plus, which is almost, I'd say merging with itself, but because of mergers which have gone on elsewhere within the corporate level.
But doing a curated selection of content that maybe the Windows release passed 3-4 years ago, and making a new window that makes cost effective the production also. And in our case, for example, in Movistar Plus, that has a lot of originals, like La Unidad, La Fortuna, they are working very well when we export them to other countries.
So this is interesting, you'll sell them overseas to providers who obviously aren't in competition with you, but would they, I don't know, would they find their way on to a commercial broadcaster in Spain after a few years?
Yeah, and even when we release the originals, some of the operators also has the Movistar TV originals in their proposal.
It's interesting how the sort of the brand of the producer has come back into fashion, and that becomes helpful. I remember, ITV in the mid-90s took out all of the regional logos which used to be at the front of shows, and now arguably, not the regional companies, but it's back again. You see BBC Entertainment, ITV Drama, Netflix originals, Movie Star originals, all coming there and helping to build the story and sell the content. Do you think that within that, there is, I guess, the exclusive almost becomes, again, more important again, doesn't it, really? Yeah. Being able to have that headlining content.
Fully agree. In the case of Movistar Plus, we have exclusive originals, plus all the sports with domestic and international exclusive rights. So we call it the infinite stadium in the case of sports. So of course, it's essential to have own content to make distinctive from the Me Too, that is the normal or the common thing in the industry. And in terms of the offer, of the commercial offer, we have the premium offer linked to the set-top box for pay TV users, but we offer also some pieces. We select some pieces of the linear, sports, and all the originals and put on the direct-to-consumer offering in the case of the Spanish market.
Interesting. And Charles, amid all of this, you've got developing numbers of AVOD players who are coming in, both the ones that the headline ones, if you like, and the smaller ones, offering all sorts of niche content.
Yeah, I mean the AVOD market is pretty unregulated and pretty wild, but it's large. It does affect. I mean, it's a way for creators to monetize the content, and I think the big change is. I mean, on a positive note, we don't suffer from the writers or actors strike, so I guess that's good. but on the other hand, one of the things that's really happened in the last few years, it's been a sea change. It's been great. Is the power has shifted from the studios and the producers to the creators, and specifically to the women. And what OnlyFans has done, for people who aren't familiar with the platform, it's a creator-driven platform where creators can offer their content. They promote it on Twitter typically, and then fans subscribe to their accounts. But OnlyFans didn't exist 7 years ago, and last year it billed close to $4 billion. So this is quite a large platform in terms of consumer spend on content, and it's made it so that the actresses have been able to take more control about the content that they're making, They've charged more, of course, but that's good because they were underpaid. And so that's really changed the market quite a bit. So the dynamic has shifted in favor of the women, which is, something to be celebrated. It's a good thing. But that's been our biggest change in content.
Matthew, tell me a little bit, if we move on to maybe talk about linear channels in the mix, because they're still there. I think that obviously even the viewing patterns to such the linear channels are changing with Restart and their own platforms as well, ITVX, who we heard from yesterday, BBC iPlayer. But I guess in all markets, the public service broadcasters and the big commercial channels still play an important role.
They certainly do for TalkTalk. The majority of our customer base who are in TV are big linear TV viewers still.
Is that because they're maybe older than some, or is there other socio-economic factors at play here?
There's definitely a generational aspect to it. So one of the interesting things that we'll see is how much linear viewing is a learned behaviour that's just transferring, or whether there is really a genuine user need or viewing habit that we should hold on to. Outside of that, of course, the public service broadcasters do play an important role in the local content production and in delivering a service that's relevant. We mentioned regional level. I mean, that's hard. That would be hard for Netflix to do, to deliver to a Midland or a central ITV region. So I think
bizarrely, though, if you look on some app stores, you can find these like US regional television broadcasters around. So I don't know. Maybe there is hope for Look East going international or something at some point.
But yeah, I think that there's broadcast television, and we shouldn't conflate linear TV with broadcast television. Broadcast television was constrained to be linear because the technology didn't exist to make it anything other than linear. Now, of course, you can watch content anywhere you like, and there's content people are moving away from watching linear onto on demand. Fast is working. I don't know whether or not Fast is working because there are players with sufficient prominence in the market to make it work, or whether or not it's actually meeting a need.
I suppose with most fast content, you need, just with anything else, you need a brand to start off with.
Yes,
and
exactly,
and if you don't, it would be unusual, shall we say, for there to be a breakout fast channel show.
Yes,
I think is.
But I think so for what we would call public service linear broadcasting, I don't see that going away. I think it plays an important role in any nation and it should continue to be regulated. But in terms of they needn't stay with linear. They can deliver their public service.
I was going to say, the interesting thing is, you've got, for example, Amazon Prime in the UK. I know they've done sport in other markets, of course, but they bought a little baby package, basically, of Premier League matches, and they just pop up. They don't normally have a Premier League channel. They just pop up for a week over Christmas or whenever these matches are going to be shown, and then when it's finished, they disappear again. There's nothing special. They're using basically the second presenter or something from other channels who are freelance or whatever. They haven't managed to create their own stars, as it were, to do it. They just pop up and they go away again.
Well, I think when it's a live event, you kind of know when it's going to happen by the virtue of it's happening at a specific time. So you don't necessarily have to lead with a linear scheduled discovery mechanism. But I sort of like being involved in the UK now, ETV, when they first came to look at Freeview Play, they didn't really get, it was a very big American company, retailer, they didn't really get linear TV, didn't really see the need. They are transactional in their mindset, which is buy a bit of on-demand content and do the same with linear. So they've had to learn what linear TV is about to make sense of the British and the European market. So I think...
Do come in.
Just linking, I think that linear channels are changing a bit their role. You mentioned Fast, but they are essential for news, for sports, for live events in general. So in general, in our proposal, we always keep some linear channels that are temporal. So when we have La Liga or a Champions League, we just switch on them. and during the week you cannot, you have nothing in that channel. So that's essential. And in terms of I wanted to point out that there's a recent research from Nielsen that in US in September was the second consecutive month where not just adult but also new generations were increasing the linear consumption. So maybe it's because of sports, because NFL and NBA were back, but we don't know.
I'm intrigued. It's interesting. You're saying that linear channels pop up and show La Liga. I think there's Sky Sports, for example, runs a Premier League channel, but they pack out the rest of the time with arguably older Premier League matches, which may be interesting to some football fans if you like that game, but not any other. You do that too?
We also.
Okay.
Yes, we have always running a sports one, but others that just are temporary for the weekend or for the...
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
For Formula One, and we are integrated also with, we have DAZN as an app, and also broadcasting the linear channels with DAZN. Sometimes they are on, sometimes not.
Yeah, I guess there is the advantage. Formula One's a good example. Not that long ago, all you would be the race itself. Now you get practice and all the other things which sort of go on several days almost before the main event takes place. And for the real fan, they can watch that content, be that on maybe one of your channels or maybe on Formula One's own service, which I think they run in some territories. Charles, in your market, I guess linear is fading a little bit, largely because the content seems to have been, I don't know, moved off late nights on Channel 5 or wherever it might have been shown before, and on demand gives the people who want that content the opportunity to see it when they want to.
Yeah, it's certainly that's a very good point, Julian. I mean, it's definitely a type of content that lends itself to an SVOD transactional environment. And so once the opportunity for people to consume content on a non-linear basis through an app or, for example, on their television, became available, that's worked for them. We had one operator who had 3 18+ channels, and they shut them all down about 2 years ago. And we were able to migrate 90% of that business to an SVOD, TVOD environment. And then it grew from there. And linear works. I guess the only comment I would make is if you have 18+ linear is a very difficult product. You don't know what's in it. It's kind of a minefield in a way for operators today. So a lot of people are moving away from that because they don't know what's programmed in the channels. Whereas at least with a walled garden, they know what's going on in the garden. With the power of softcore content is extremely powerful as a tool to push transactional business to the 18+ market. So if you can show soft content and give a hint to the consumers that content is available on another part of the ecosystem in an 18+ environment, you can make a lot of revenue that way.
I want to take a look at the distribution and of content. And Matthew, I guess it is still, I think we've hinted at earlier, really, the importance of having the linear alongside the SVOD and not ghettoizing or hiding the channels away, which we have seen in some markets and some operators almost putting the linear channels up a corner so that they don't not as easily found.
I mean, that's been happening for quite some time. I remember back, it must be sort of 7 or 8 years ago when Samsung started putting a homepage rather than on a TV, rather than just TV appearing. And ITV, but it's actually longer ago than that. Actually, the existence of the backwards EPG certainly in the UK market is a response to.
That was a UV thing, wasn't it? I think one of the first ones to bring that in.
UV first and FreeSat.
Yeah, that's it.
With increasingly on.
I got quite excited about that when the announcements came. Then I realised I was never actually using it.
It's because it's what's in it. This is my point about the usage model. Really, it's very much what's in it for the PSPs, because the broadcast horizontal market works because there's a gentleman's agreement between broadcasters who've got the content and device manufacturers who want to sell a device. And of course, that's now completely disrupted because TV manufacturers want to be a platform and make their own revenue from content as well. So in order for PSPs to remain relevant, they're using the one thing that they can hold on to give them prominence, which is the EPG and the button on the remote, the guide button, to send people into their services. So that's it's why it's sort of remaining relevant. I've sort of forgotten your original question.
No, it's just the importance of having them of having them side by side between the.
I mean, yes. So it's kind of side by side because broadcasters broadcasters are supported by regulation, right? There's a must-carry obligation, certainly in the UK. All the public service broadcasters have to appear if you're delivering television service, so they have to exist.
Well, I guess from the viewer's point of view, they not unreasonably, they want to get that package, and in your case, they may initially be coming for broadband and get the TV as well, or they may be attracted by the TV offer and fancy getting the broadband. But actually, to have them together and packaged in a sensible pricing is what any operator will desire to do, and it's arguably not in their interests to miss stuff out, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, and linear's not dead, but on-demand is very strong, so we have to serve both. I mean, UView's whole sort of remit is to blend on-demand content from various providers with the linear TV.
Because UView is still pretty much yourselves, and obviously BT, or I'm not entirely sure you need to call them EE these days, but whatever they're calling themselves, they're effectively BT, the two companies.
So, well, it's us, BT, and then the four.
The PSBs are still shareholders, or four of the PSBs?
ITV, BBC, Channel 4, and well, now essentially Paramount because Channel 5 are owned, but yeah, so all of us together. Solving the problem of how you coexist linear TV with on-demand, and of course, the PSPs are also playing in the on-demand space as well. So we're aggregating their content next to everyone else's content, whilst finding a way of delivering linear TV in the way that people have always experienced it. So,
yeah. Is it much the same way in Spain as to how this positioned?
I would say that in the case of Telefónica, it depends on the country. When you have not just an aggregator role, we blend content and we put you mean in terms of the linear and...
Yes, living side by side.
So we have a strong consumption through the EPG, and in many people still dialing the channel number, so it's a way to access the content that maybe is for the senior people, but still being used a lot.
Can I just say, I really struggle learning channel numbers these days. I don't know if it's an age thing or more the fact they keep on changing beyond the ones the mandatory ones to place.
You have like 300 channels. It's not the case in Spain, but sometimes you have in US you have more than 300 OTTs. So in the case of broadcasters, could be 400 channels. So.
And I guess also people are navigating in different ways. They're not necessarily, myself included, going to that channel number. They're going for an individual piece of content or a service which will give them the type of content they're looking for.
And we're not even seeing TVs or set-top boxes that are shipping with buttons on the remote control anymore. Apple TV doesn't. By default, in LG's Smart Wand, it's a pointing device rather than a numerical pointer. So, we're experimenting with visual guides. So to move away from, the buttons will be still there, and that you'll be into this fierce competition over LCN ordering still, and that those numbers count for prominence directly. But exploring with ways of switching that EPG experience into more visual image-led. Schedule linear content.
And that would be through TalkTalk or through UV or the combination of the two?
Yeah.
So a nice little refresh, which is something to look forward to.
So may I
please, go ahead.
An aspect, we are talking about video content, but in the case of Movistar Plus or the Vivo Play, the brand in Brazil, we are not blending just video, we are blending also living apps, which is a customized space we have within the user experience, and you can discover particular apps like a karaoke one, which is called Canto, or you can have some gaming content from influencers that they record their streamings, and you can find some clips on that, or edutainment applications. So we have a whole entertainment ecosystem already.
It's interesting, these smaller ones, be like fitness apps, or you know, I'll use some of the audio apps in the UK through the.
We have a lot of podcasts and Audible.
Yeah. I wonder, are they almost like the new retention devices? Like it always used to be said of CNN. You know, you wouldn't go and buy a cable TV package because it had CNN, but you might keep it because of CNN. Are there? What are the equivalents these days?
You mean in terms of commercial?
In terms of the service which people really want to hang on to and not leave. It may not be because why they buy the service, but the service that they stay for.
If you offer, in our case, the Living Apps offer a curated selection of apps or content related with edutainment, music, whatever, this is working really well. But I think it's something that is related with the type of customer you have and the market you move.
Okay. Matthew?
I think that. So first of all, I think that we're building a model around video content, sort of partnerships and commercial models around that, but not being in the business of licensing and distributing the content allows us a model that is replicable in verticals adjacent to content. So we can absolutely look at game streaming, which we heard Sylvan talk about earlier, and fitness, as you mentioned, but not as a producer or a distributor of the content, as someone who can give ease of access to that content and ability to add it to your bill and overall for it to be cheaper.
And you think this is something which the telcos can provide, or any aggregator, I guess, who's made the decision we're not going to go out and out creating content, we're just going to bring in the best from wherever?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a retention device, and this is about entertainment, so entertainment isn't just about video, so I think, but they are adjacent to the main purpose of having a TV is in watching content. But yeah, absolutely, they're there to be explored.
And I guess on the sort of the local level, in whatever market, I'll go back to yesterday's graph because I did love this. The map of Europe that showed effectively the public service broadcasters with the big commercials as the major player in every country, and the one which followed, which showed like Netflix everywhere other than Germany, and heading a little bit towards Russia. But is it, you know, the big retainers, local TV, the sports content, the channels that show the big entertainment shows that get the family together on a Friday or a Saturday night?
I would say that it's not just retention, it's big differentiation. So, I mean, bringing or holding a sports content or local content. In the case of Movistar Plus, I already mentioned that we are the largest stadium in terms of sports, but always we aggregate all the public and private national broadcasters. And recent audience reports show that for any national events, people go to the national RTV player, but for other type of stuff, they are consuming a lot Antena 3 player, which is the big media group in Spain. So I think it's important to have a mix.
Yeah. I think you're just describing the aggregation business model, really, aren't you?
I guess so.
To deliver a relevant service, you have to aggregate and deliver as much content to consumers.
Does it confuse things? If, for example, we have the big channels, we expect them to do entertainment. We have Amazon now getting into the quiz show business with this James Bond thing that they're putting on and getting, in the UK at least, getting quite a bit of publicity for it. Does that change the dynamic of what these services are like, or is it?
In Spain, we have a couple of shows, well known from the 70s. It was called 1, 2, 3, And
3-2-1 we had it. We called it 3-2-1.
Really? Okay.
Ted Rogers and Dusty Bin, if anybody
Bin,
remembers that.
yes.
and he just started a couple of weeks ago in Amazon Prime Video.
Oh, really?
And also,
New ones, new episodes.
Yeah. And also Operación Triunfo. I'm just not translating Operación Triunfo, the first music talent show. And this is also this season starting with Amazon. So.
Oh, I want to see. Oh, that sounds much better than the James Bond one that they're planning. Charles, I guess you'd throw adult into the mix as a differentiator as well.
It can be a very powerful retention tool for a certain demographic. So, men over the age of 40,
That uncle you'd rather forget about, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, once they start to consume adult content on a platform, it is something that stops them from churning away.
Okay.
It's definitely a very, very powerful tool.
Let's look ahead, shall we, as to what might sort of shape content acquisition in the coming years, and if we think it will change, as to whether or not the return of 3-2-1 in Spain or Amazon quizzes generally are going to make the market different to what it was. Maria, for example, fast channels is the obvious thing to go to here. Is that going to dramatically change the way we look at television, or is it just going to be another, a set of people? The same way a subset of people watch Charles's adult channels, maybe a subset of people will watch fast channels.
I'm not expert in traditional television because I work in the OTT, but I think we are just a revival of the historic television. So fast are just the legacy linear. So I don't think that we are having so much change. It's just...
So are you saying that the fast channels is just almost...
It's an evolution of the linear proposal.
Right, almost trying to pull people towards...
And it's like Netflix. Netflix started just as a single streaming platform, OTT, has moved after some years in the advertising, is removing the basic plan, so they just have 3 tiers because they have seen that that plan wasn't differentiating that much from the advertising.
I was going to say, it was basically like pay 50 pence more, 50 pence less, not to see adverts. It's not a major proposition.
They get the money from the advertisers, not from the consumers. So it's like, I think it's a life evolution.
There was a study done a few years ago, I remember, and it was the cost in your shopping basket of goods you bought, and it was basically worked out that you effectively paid in your shopping basket double what you did for the TV license fee in order to indirectly fund ITV.
Right, yeah.
Matthew, do you think that the business model, I guess, is fast, but in the UK we've got Freely on the way, which I guess we better explain what it is to our international delegates.
Well, there's many people in the UK still trying
to
maybe
to the UK ones as well, for that matter.
But and that's not doing them a disservice. It's a complicated thing they're trying to do. Well, first of all, to sort of like lead into that, I would say that fundamentally there are some things that aren't going to change, and I touched upon it earlier. What the free-to-air broadcasters need to do is trade prominence on user interfaces and devices for the content that they're making, because most of them are making money out of adverts. So they need to be in front of people to make their business models work. So there will still be a world where they're exchanging prominence in return for their content. It used to be the horizontal market, but now it's aggregation plays. So what will differ is it's not just a gentleman's agreement, as they called it. It will be commercial deals being struck for prominence in return for content, and that's essentially what Freely is doing. It Freely is a modern UI, a discovery app around linear TV and aggregation of the PSP's content. And
do you think it might displace UView, or UView find its way folded in, or vice versa at some point?
I think they are going to coexist for the time being. Okay. We're solving a slightly different problem at the moment, but in the fullness of time. I mean, basically, once everything is an IP, the need for there to be different platforms in the UK sort of evaporates. You've got metadata aggregation all in one place. You've got distribution of IP and access to IP content all in one place. and you've got all the same people involved. So in the fullness of time, I expect that to sort of like consolidate.
It's funny, we were talking about the DVBI, I think if I did get my acronyms right yesterday,
Yes.
and you can imagine a scenario where Freeview and FreeSat have the same channel numbers. There may be some differences at some points, but there would be a core set.
Well, there's been a consultation on the LCN for a future version of Freeview and consolidate FreeSat into it. But I mean, it's actually DVBI is slightly solving the same problem that ETV are trying to solve with Freely in a totally different way. It's sort of DVBI is trying to sustain the horizontal market into the IP distribution world, whereas Freely is leaning into solving content prominence, which you get through having an EPG. So,
do you think? I just interesting. As a final thought, actually, because we're sort of the clock is ticking down. Do you know the title of our session here is content and platform competition? Do you think generally there will be fewer platforms in years to come? Not necessarily through merger, but I guess ultimately through mergers.
We'll see fewer SVODs. I think we'll see fewer TV manufacturing brands. Everything will consolidate. It might be into the 2030s when we finally see it, but...
Charles, you agree?
Yeah, I agree with Matthew. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that it's moving that direction, and also the definition of what is a platform is going to change as well. So,
Maria.
Yeah, telco consolidation is obvious in Spain. We are consolidating a couple of operators this year. And in terms of library and OTT platforms, will be also the scenario.
Okay. Well, look, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Indeed, thank you.
Thank you.